What up, what up, what up? Once again, it's Tony, aka Ash from Kiss Me Ash. Is it Kiss Me Ash Fragrance? It's kind of bad that I don't even know the name of my own page, whatever. But here with another review, as I just said, and as you can see in the title, it's King by Parfums Vintage. Now, I almost feel like I low key started the hype around King as far as the Parfums Vintage fragrance group that's on Facebook. There's the official one, and then there's like Parfums Vintage Fragrance Lovers or something like that. I'm talking about the latter of the two, the Fragrance Lovers one. Because at the time that I got King, the only ones I didn't have was Noir, Beyond Noir, Noir Intense, which had been discontinued by that time anyway, and the original Parfum or the original Pineapple Vintage. So when I first got King in, I was actually taken aback. Before we get into the actual review, though, just in case you don't know about Parfums Vintage, here's the box. As far as the Pineapple Vintage line, all the boxes look the same. I've seen some black ones from the Pineapple Vintage line. Like early on, I think that was before they just basically stuck with the white box for the main line, and then Beyond Noir with the brown box and the black box with Noir. But anyway, so there's the box. There's the the guy with the pineapple and all that, or that's not a pineapple. Oh no, the guy spraying the pineapple. So yeah. So there you go. There's the box. Everything's very nice box, very textured. Probably one of the. I think honestly, the box is just as good, if not maybe even better than the boxes that Creed provides. So take that for what you will. Here's the bottle. And then to indicate, I don't know if you guys can see that, but to indicate all your fragrances, you have the King right there. The only one, funny enough, I do have one bottle, which is King Intense, that doesn't actually have the sticker. So I guess it's really good that I actually really like King Intense, because if I actually wanted to sell it, it'd probably be hard to sell. Although I do have the box, but since the sticker's gone, people are going to be like, well, how do I know this is King Intense? But anyway, that's not a big deal. So as far as the actual fragrance in itself, let me actually start off by talking about the hype and another fragrance. So if you do know the line, then you know about Vanilla Intense. If you don't know about the line, now you know. They have another fragrance called Vanilla Intense. And I think that was actually dropped. I think King and Vanilla Intense were dropped at the same time. Or maybe it was Vanilla Intense and King Intense. But anyway, Vanilla Intense was dropped around the same time as King and King Intense. And ever since then, from what I've seen, and I joined the Parfums Vintage group in 2019. So from 2019 up until now, you'll have people ranting and raving and really loving Vanilla Intense. Like a lot of times that's people's number one in the Pineapple Vintage fragrance line. If we want to add Emperor, then Emperor usually trumps Vanilla Intense, but Vanilla Intense is usually in everybody's like top three. And every time I wore Vanilla Intense, I thought, I like the way this smells, but I'm not so, like, it was getting a lot of hype, and I didn't think that what I experienced met the hype. And it's not one of those things where I saw the hype before I got the bottle and it didn't meet expectations. It was one of those things where I noticed it's starting to get hype after I actually had the bottle. So I would wear it more, and I'm like, it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it's a very nice fragrance. Vanilla Intense is a very nice fragrance. But I didn't think it was nice enough to warrant all the praise it was getting. So when I got King, King made me think, all the praise that Vanilla Intense gets, King is a better version of Vanilla Intense. That's my personal opinion. And so, me stating my opinion on the Parfums Vintage Fragrance group, a lot of people started buying King, and cool. Good job, Tony. The Donkey Kong. But anyway, so with King, the main thing that I get from King is a very noticeable vanilla note. Now, the thing about it is, I'm starting to notice more and more the differences between what Parfums Vintage does and actual Aventus. So you'll see a lot of people, and I'll get more into that when I actually review Emperor and Emperor X-Straight. I'll probably do those at the same time. But everybody talks about how, those two fragrances are a dead ringer for Aventus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They are very, very close, but they don't complete the overall Aventus experience. That's my personal opinion. But again, I'll get into that once I actually do a review on those fragrances. But with King Intense and Vanilla Intense and all the Parfums Vintage fragrances that have a prominent vanilla note, the actual vanilla note on the opening, like when you first get that note, it's quite a bit different than the vanilla note that's used in Aventus. Now with King, I noticed that it develops more into a closer approximation to the vanilla note that Aventus uses, but it's not like spot on. It's not the exact vanilla note. But in my opinion, King is basically what Vanilla Intense should be. The main difference between King and Vanilla Intense is the ratio of pineapple to vanilla. Now with King, you get, in my personal opinion, you get a better balance of the pineapple note and the vanilla note. Like, it's just blended better in my personal opinion. With Vanilla Intense, you get way more vanilla, and the pineapple is toned down quite a bit, right? But in both fragrances, there's definitely a standout, very noticeable up front and center vanilla. It's just how it's blended, as well as the the mid and the dry down, that sets it apart. But they're very similar. Like if you have Vanilla Intense first, and you got King afterwards, you probably would think, oh, they're like the same thing. Did they give me like you? I might have to edit that out. But you'd be like, did they give me the right bottle? But no, you got the right bottle. It's just the blend of the vanilla and the pineapple that really do it. But another thing that I had mentioned in the Facebook group is that King actually, in my personal opinion, is a closer approximation to the 2017 batches of Aventus. Do they smell exactly the same? No. No, 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 no. Is there a specific batch that I can think of when I smell King versus any of the 2017 batches that I have? Not necessarily. It's just the vibe, like it has a more 2017 Aventus vibe than all the other pineapple vintage fragrances, you know what I'm saying, as far as that line is concerned. When Maximus came out, Emperor Maximus, it was said that was supposed to be a 2017-ish batch of Aventus. And honestly, I would say King is closer, just purely based on that vanilla note, than Emperor Maximus. But I'll also get more into that when I actually review Emperor Maximus and Maximus X-Straight. But going back to King, you get a prominent vanilla note, but it's blended really well with the pineapple note. And as it dries down, you start to get some of the woodiness but the woodiness stays sweet. Um, I probably should have done this along with King Intense, but uh, more videos, more content, less length of the video. So we'll just go with this. But the woodiness of the King starts to come in, but it's not like supreme woods. It's not like woods to the point where you're starting to think, oh, this is a little bit dark or this is a little bit smoky. The woods come in, but it's blended really well with that vanilla, that it's more of a undertone rather than just like screaming, it's the mids now. I have a few batches of Aventus where when the mids come in, that woodiness kicks in and like they announce themselves. They make their presence very felt. And it's like, hey, we here. The woods is here. You know what I'm saying? The woods is now. But with with King rather, it's noticeable, but it's more subtle because of the sweetness of the vanilla and the pineapple that kind of just blend and mesh well with it. But like I said, to me, if you're looking for a pineapple vintage or a Parfums vintage version of a 2017 batch of Aventus, in my personal opinion, King and King Intense are your best bets, but specifically King. So that's how I feel about it. It's a really good fragrance. I'm actually wearing it right now. And as with all my fragrances, well, my main way of spraying is chest, collars, inner elbows, back of the neck. Now, if it's not Aventus, then I'll do my neck as well, both pulse points on the neck. But since it's an Aventus, well, if it's not an Aventus type fragrance, but if it's in the Aventus DNA, I stay away from this area just so I don't go anosmic to it. That way I feel like I can pick it up a lot more, because the further it is away from your nose, the easier it is to pick it up more constantly throughout the day and get wafts of it, as opposed to it's like right there and it's like stuck right under your nose, so you end up going nose blind to it, and then you think that your Aventus or your Aventus inspired DNA fragrance isn't lasting as long, and the people around you could smell it, that sort of thing. So that's how I do. As far as performance, when I first got onto the Parfums Vintage group, that was one thing that people talked about as far as King, is the fact that it doesn't perform very well. And out of all the Pineapple Vintage / Emperor line, I would say King and Noir probably last the least amount of time on my skin. Actually, no. The One Intense, Pineapple Vintage, the One Intense, Noir, and King are probably the worst performers. But when I say that, that's relatively speaking. So with King, I usually get a good 8 hours. And that's my baseline. If it's not like, basically my thing is, if it's a clone, if it gets 8 hours, I'm cool. And honestly, with this era of fragrance anyway, I feel like 8 hours is a really good mark. Because when I first got into fragrance, this was back in like 2010, you had the Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mals, you had Paco Rabanne 1 million, you had, Tere Hermes, you had Tere Mugler, Amen. Other than the Hermes, I don't know, I had to catch myself real fast, but other than the Hermes, out of all those fragrances, they all lasted like a good 24 48 hours. Even Issey Miyake's Lude Issey, if I sprayed that, Amen, Lamal, 1 million, if I spray any of those on, and I don't shower the next day, I'm getting 48 hours. Point blank period. I'm getting 48 hours consistently. I still have these bottles. So I can attest for this. I'm gonna still get 48 hours cold. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy with that. But with the new regulations and such, and certain ingredients that are banned, or certain amounts of certain ingredients that are currently banned, the performance now isn't, for any fragrance, more than likely isn't what it's gonna be or what it was back in 2010 through maybe 2015 or so. Actually, to add to that list, the whole Dior Homme line, Dior Homme, Dior Homme Intense, Dior Homme Parfum, those all get me, I can get 48 hours on those fragrances. So, going back to my original point, in this day and age, if I'm getting 8 hours out of a fragrance, I'm happy. I'm not complaining. I'm happy. And even if I can't smell it my damn self, if hours after the fact that I can't smell it, somebody says, "Oh, what you got on, bro? Like, what's up? What's up with that?" Then I'm cool. I'm happy with that. So that's how I am with that. So King, I highly recommend. 8 hours, solid 8 hours for me. I will say the first few times that you wear it, and this is my experience with a lot of fragrances. I don't know if it's just my skin, if it's the bottles need just some oxygen, to blossom and, fully mature, or what. But for me, my first few wearings, the performance wasn't as great. I probably got like 5 hours or so. But ever since those first few wearings and then me letting it chill, because I have so many fragrances I can rotate, so I can not wear the same fragrance twice and rotate it to, I don't get to it for another month or 2 or 3 or whatever. So that's kind of how it is with this, where first couple wearings, it smells great, but only like 5 hours or so. And then after that, it just performed better and better and better. So now we're at 8. As far as projection, I think that it projects pretty damn well. That vanilla note, like, it's noticeable. The vanilla note is going to be what pulls people in. And once they get closer, I think that they'll smell the pineapple more. And if you're already into the mids, it's kind of the same thing, but that woody undertone might intrigue them a little bit more as well. So, that's my review on King. Highly recommended. I would maybe wait for a sale, because, Parfums Vintage, you know what I'm saying? But aside from that, definitely highly recommended. Highly recommended. I would easily pick King over Vanilla Intense. So that's all we got for today. I'll see y'all when I see y'all. And I'm out.